do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts, and do's and don'ts, and do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. It's the do's and don'ts, or in French, the A, because there is no words for do's and don'ts in France. So if you're listening in France, you won't understand a damn word. Now,
right.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm so excited about this one.
This is a good one.
It's a good one, but it's also I slightly felt a bit worried that we'll be sending out the wrong messages. The do's and don'ts of extramarital affairs.
I just want to say, if you want to send out the wrong messages to us, 07986137239.
Oh, thank you for keeping me on the ball. I completely forgot about that. 078. Wait, what am I doing? Studio@onfmradio.co.uk.
I give you one task.
I know.
Except for doing all the buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not my buttons. I have a zip.
Okay.
Now, let's move on.
Okay, so the first one for me would be: do use generic terms like darling, sugar plum, baby cakes instead instead of names, because it's very hard for a man or woman who's going around seeing a lot of people. You don't want to be getting mixed up with the names. Yeah. So it's a very simple rule.
Sparrow, polystyrene, packaging.
Go for lovey-dovey names. Don't start. Don't use the actual names.
Flimbo.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dipsy Whipsy, La La. All those things. That's a good tip. I would also say don't reminisce about the other person in the company of particularly your wife, say, if that's the way. For example, if you're in bed with your wife and you're like, and they're like, what? What is it? And you're like, oh, nothing. It's just that Jill said something really funny in bed the other day. Like, who's Jill? Oh, you don't know her. Because that will blow you. Don't do that. Don't do that.
That's a massive don't.
It's a massive don't, because these, for me, they're all bad. But do remain upbeat, on the other hand.
Yeah.
You want to be upbeat about it. Treat your affair lightly, is what I'd say. Go around going, I'm having an affair. Da, 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 da. Because as soon as you get reflective, you're like, oh my God, I'm cheating on my wife. Bam! You get discovered. Right? Keep it light.
Yeah. Okay.
Delusion. Self-delusion.
Right. So basically, don't get any feelings of guilt.
Yes, no guilt. And actually, I would say I did actually make the song I'm having an affair. That was the song, if you don't remember. But I would actually say, in general, don't mention the word affair, right? Try not to mention it. For example, if you're sitting in the living room with your wife, be careful what you say, right? Because you could be there and you could be like, oh, should we watch a film? And she's like, yeah, sure, what's on? And you're like, oh, at 9 PM is that film with Pierce Brosnan, the Thomas Crown affair I'm having? Because that could slip out.
Yeah,
you see?
I see.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see it, Ed. I see it.
Yeah, because also if you're like with her and you're shopping, say at a market, and then you see a rug and you talk to the guy and you're like, how much is that rug? And he's like, £20. You're like, ooh, that seems like a fair price. Do I get a discount if I'm having an affair? Just don't do that, because I am having an affair.
If you're, maybe a novice, you're new to this adultery game.
By the way, if you're wondering, a novice isn't someone who writes books. That's something else.
That's a novelist.
Yeah. Very good. She's on fire today.
I know. Gosh. I'm not living up to my bimbo image, am I? I should be doing a better job.
I actually, do you know what? I actually wrote a note here. It says, NB, the Thomas Crown affair is a film. Just in case.
Do change certain details about yourself to your different partners, so you can't be brought up in conversation. I think this is quite a clever tip, actually. So to one lover, you could say that maybe you enjoy reading Somerset Maugham, you like sort of eating oysters with dessert wine, and the other one, the other lover, you're saying you like to burp the national anthem.
Yeah, that's if it's your wife, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
I
that
like
when
to
they're
scratch
talking
myself.
about, are you seeing my husband Tom? And they're like, Tom, is he tall? Yes, dark. Yes, and he's never missed an episode of the National Geographic. Oh, no, must be a different Tom.
I think I will say something about that one, Brooke. It's a well-constructed idea. The problem being, it's not very practical, is it? Because essentially what's going to happen is like, are you sleeping with Tom? Yeah, what about it? That's going to be it. They're not going to start checking out your dating profile. What's his favourite type of apple? It's not going to come to that. It's going. These are women. They're going to get each other like that. That'd be great to watch, though. You'd be like, yeah, look at these women fighting over me. That'd be awesome. Actually, maybe I shall have an affair.
No!
I just need to get married. I'm not married, you see. So
Okay.
I just need to do that first. I'm sort of putting the cart before the horse here.
Yeah.
So that'd be. But yeah, so it's obviously a tricky thing to say. But stay tuned.
We've got more do's and don'ts,
Yeah.
and we've got James Max coming up in the next 15 minutes on air. Stay tuned for all that. That was Stevie Wonder with 98 Degrees.
Yeah, an amazing choice. We're in the middle of a do's and don'ts of having an affair. And just like, stay true to your heart. And we seem to have some, now you're giving us some bedding music.
Yeah, I am.
That sounds a little bit too much like, it's like Rocky. We're only talking about do's and don'ts. Now it's like there's pressure. There we are. Silence. Good.
Enough of that nonsense.
Yeah, we've had enough of bedding music.
Okay,
Let's get rid of it.
so we were doing do's and don'ts of affairs. Again, this is not really, we're not encouraging affairs, but if you were to...
don't
Yeah.
have an affair.
That's pretty much it.
But that would
Just
make
don't
a very
have it.
short feature.
Yeah.
So we had to ride over that.
Oh, we've got 20 minutes to fill of this, so we've got to work with something. So I was going to say, if you're new to this, maybe don't mess up your lies. You've got to be very careful that you don't, you stick to the same story. So keep it simple.
So I would say, here's an important one, because we did actually raise some moral scruples at this. Do question why you're having an affair, right? Think about it, right? Do you feel emotionally distant from your wife? If you do, maybe you can talk to her. Maybe you can sort it out, come closer together. Is it the pressures of your work or family? Is there something you can do about that? Is it boredom? Because maybe you can sort of make your life a bit more stimulating. Or do you just want to have sex with other women? Because if it is that last thing, then that's fine. Because what else are you going to do? That would be a reason. That's the only good reason to have an affair. And it's the only even when I had to say that because Brooke was starting to look at the computer screen. She was wandering off. I was like, sex with other women. There we are, and we're back.
Okay.
Well,
I was going to say, don't date in the same postcode. I think it's quite a good rule there because you don't want, you don't want to be bumping in. So I think, if
you could have terrible male problems. I mean, that could,
you're so quick.
Exactly.
So quick, Ed.
Unless you're a postman, then it's fine. You can sleep with many women in the same postcode because you will know the addresses of each one. That's important. You won't get them mixed up.
I'm not talking about forgetting where they live, Ed. I'm talking about, too close to home.
Yeah,
There's an expression there for a reason.
I suppose if we were to do the do's and don'ts of postmen having affairs, that would actually reduce our demographic by some way straight away. That's a bit too specific, isn't it?
Yeah. And we need all the listeners to talk, and obviously the adulterers are postmen. Great.
There are a lot of similar-looking children around who have excellent ability to carry heavy loads. So I'm just saying, there's a postman at the source of all this. I would also say there are. I guess we're looking at it from the other way because imagine I've actually got a friend who she's going out with a much older guy, and he's recently sort of stuck her in a flat in King's Cross, her own little flat.
Oh,
and I
okay.
said,
Nice deal.
sounds like you're a mistress. She's like, no, I'm definitely not a mistress. And I was thinking, no, sounds like you are a mistress because I guess is basically ask yourself these questions, right? Is he a much older man, right? Because you might be the victim of an affair here, right? Has he stuck you in a small apartment somewhere? Does he ever wear sunglasses and a false moustache when you're out? You got to ask these questions, right? Have you ever met the parents of this guy? Have you ever met the parents?
You're not making it feel very comfortable. Okay?
No, or do they often work weekends or long weeks during school holidays and then return from work with a suntan? If so, then you're probably the victim of an affair. So that is from the other spectrum.
Oh, well, actually, I did a bit of research for this feature, and there are actually businesses set up for affairs, which is a little disturbing. And this one is the worst one. There's obviously this is part of do's and don'ts as well. So do have a strong alibi. And there is a business made of helping men and women, confirm their alibi called the Alibi Network. You pay them to follow up the alibi. So if it's a work thing, they will give you a number of a hotel and they will pretend to be the hotel reception, they'll forward on the calls to where you actually are. All these things. How wrong is that?
It is wrong, isn't it?
It's completely...
I mean, I think that sooner or later that service should be extended to children, because children are the biggest... Because when I was a kid on the school playground, it's not talking about children having affairs here, or anything like that, nothing silly. I used to tell the biggest lies ever, right? Because that's what you do when you're a kid. You know, you always have to make up stories. And like when I was a kid, for example, lots of on the playground, I used to say, hey, I've got an Alsatian. They're like, have you? I was like, yeah, I absolutely have got a large Alsatian. And the thing is, then whenever these kids would come around my house, like I'd forget, because you'd just say something one day and then forget about it the next. So when they'd come around my house and they'd be like, where's the Alsatian? And I'd be like, oh yeah, no, it's not very well at the moment, not very well at the vets. And then we were sort of walking down the road and I'd say, oh, the vets are there. And if only there's just some bloke paid to stand behind and just go, roof, roof, that would have sorted me. So alibis are great.
We'll be having more do's and don'ts throughout the show. Coming up after this, James Mack.